everybody. Can you hear me now? Let me turn this down. Let's see what's going on here. All right, everybody ready? Let's see what's on your person's mind. I've already blessed and shuffled. The Hierophant came up. Kind of had a feeling that there is this stronger sense of your, almost like your energy, your presence in their life for some reason. And so for this to show up is interesting because it tells me either that they feel as if they're lacking that covenant, like that covenant promise that partnerships have, or there is this realization about who you really are that's coming with this vision. And that vision for divine masculines, especially those who say, oh, I don't ever want to get married, or I don't know about that, or I don't know who I'd want to marry. But when they're really non-committal with the person they love the most, it's very interesting how quickly they turn around. Typically, those divine masculines don't want to wait to get married after you get back together. And I've seen that happen quite a few times, even with divine feminines who had fully given up and even started to denounce the journey. And then the DM comes in and sweeps them off their feet. And it's kind of wild. So, all right, let's go ahead and I'm going to lay out a spread for us. What do we have here, by the way? I didn't check these. This just came up because it's how the deck, it's one of those kind of decks. But okay, all right, cool. I wasn't when I don't shuffle in front of you, I don't like to just show you random cards because then it's like, oh, you made that happen. It's like, Ace of Pentacles in the spirit, Ace of Cups. Oh, you saw the Emperor flash? Ace of Cups, Divine. Okay, wow, interesting. Wow, very interesting story that we have here. Let me go ahead and just slip this there. All right. Especially with this Ace of Cups, he goes down, and here's what's interesting. He goes down and he gets the transformation happens, right? I think what this says is as your divine masculine went lower, like doing things that you saw and thought, why are you doing that? You know what I mean? Like, why would you do that? As you saw that happening, what you couldn't see, what I don't even think they could see or knew, was that they were strengthening their sea legs, as it were. They were able to see more realistically instead of from a place of pain, even though they were going lower and making these kind of choices. Now, what's interesting to me about this is we have the Page of Cups kind of coming out, but hidden behind it, I couldn't even tell that there was another card, I don't think, for a second, is this Death card. And if you look, this is actually the shoreline. That's a boat back there. So I think it's important to see we've got Ace of Cups, water, Six of Swords, water, Death with a water background, the Page of Cups, water here. It's all this story. I think we're going to have a story reading here, guys. Very interesting. Okay, really quick before we go any further. Okay, and water with the star. And if we put this the right way, oh, this glare. There we go. If we put this the right way, now happy times make positive, optimistic, long-term plans on the right path. Falling in love or the resurgence of a relationship, spiritual growth, enhanced intuition, a new home. When you combine the divine feminine pouring out for the two of you, okay, by the way, for the two of you, that's why she's got his bucket, all right, or his container, his vase, whatever this is called, his cup. But he has to go get his own. He needs to go figure out how to do this. And so I think it's really important that we recognize the emotional connection between everything we're about to look at. And that's why that energy felt so strong with this Hierophant. It was just so clear to me that they can't release that. that they can't let go because it is affecting them in an area where they have previously avoided things and at this time are trying to get a better handle of. That happens every so often. They go through these phases and then sometimes they just dip off on their own. Sometimes divine has them go through a dip, right? So we don't always know what it is, but what we have to understand is there's a story that goes deeper. And in a divine partnership like this, even in separation, our stories are connected. Even if we give way too much energy to how intertwined we are during separation, which kind of goes against the nature, the true divine nature, not the tricky nature of toxic separation, but the true divine nature of real divine love between twin flames is not about all that. It's actually about both of you being able to go on the journeys and then look what happens. This is actually it. This is such a good depiction. He comes in with his wand. He's inspired. That's usually what they're lacking. They're not inspired to move in a divine way. She comes in and she has a little spirit baby. This is your combined mission. And both of you bring all the healing work you've done to help your broken heart, not just with them, but think about how much you want to heal because of how heavy the things with them became, right? Things with your in your life which probably never as heavy as they were when you realized you were a twin flame and that now you have to be in this thing called separation. There's probably very few moments in your life that compare to it, especially the extended nature of it, right? But you deciding, I can't deal with this is a divinely ordained thing. And as you come in, that's exactly what most mothers, if not all, most likely feel at certain points when they're having to birth something. There's that feeling of, I can't. Like, I don't, oh my gosh, can I handle this? I don't even know how much longer it's going to be. Like, I'm already like, those moments are natural. It's human nature, but it's a part of the process. And birthing is not easy. We make it sound very spiritual, but it's not easy. Finding inspiration when you have been taken. Notice this. Where do you get the inspiration from? If this is him, where do you get the inspiration? Well, the only other wand is this. He had to take it from death. And he had to leave the flag. That's tempting to take the whole thing. But he had to leave the flag and keep only the divine. Death putting this black flag on this wand turned it into the scythe. What is it called? You know what I'm talking about? Reaper stuff, okay? Instead of something that could be used to harvest. Now, in the seven of pentacles, he could put his own on there and actually go out and harvest, which is what we see. We see the connection, right? So if this person received a message and then recognized that they needed to transform their life so they could go here, and this has been their vision, it's hard for us to imagine it, but once we can see what divine has set up, it is very, very common. I think I need to have a deeper understanding because this is not out of our purview. I think we've all seen this. So we need to go a little bit deeper. So we have the lovers, we have the twin flame. Well, this is the yin yang, this is us together, and this is no. I think that this is helping us understand. I want to pull some for this. That they have to be able to choose. The message that they receive is clearly about love. It's clearly about making the right choices and doing things that are healthy, that are positive, that are good. Like, be a good person, but also to yourself. And divine masculine is like, oh, wait a minute. Well, if I do that, that means that I have to give up everything that I am because I built a life around a bunch of unhealthy people or people who they want me to stay the same. I've been around people this whole time that are not going to want me to become a better person. And in many cases, if we're actually talking about like some sort of karmic third party, it's not always a person and it's not always necessary in a twin flame connection. It doesn't always happen, right? But if there is, you know for a fact that there's people who don't want you to get together. That I don't deny. I have clients, but it's probably maybe like 20% of clients who are actually dealing with a karmic third party person for real, for real. Like it's undeniable. And the truth is, it's not something that could be denied. It's such a major part of their dynamic that there's this opposing force. But what you must understand is that there's an opposing force for everyone. And when we see it as a person, it's easier to identify. But there's that 80% of my clients that it's not a person. And so what we have to figure out is, what did your divine masculine just realize that if they transform would bring them closer to you? And that's pretty deep, right? Because it's I got it. How what's a good example that's broad enough, right? Because this is a general reading, so I don't want people to get like pinpoint, right? But this is not it, but this is I think an example. All right, this person decides that whatever diet or lifestyle you live, they want to do that now. Or this person decides that they want to change or become better in some specific thing that maybe you talk to them about, or maybe that's who you are. And so it's pretty clear to them. And I think what this is a breadcrumb. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, anyway, sorry. I think this is a breadcrumb. I think that divine uses our brains for us and against us in order to guide us. Kind of like the visual that I've tried to give of the chariot, which I believe is how we are one in the 5D, but we are two in the 3D. In the 5D, we're still there and we're not a couple, we're one being. That's that's just how I can't imagine anything else, and I've never found anything else that's not just like taking from some multiple religious beliefs or practices or whatever, right? But the one thing that just divinely came and made so much sense and makes sense to every person that I say that to, we were one and down, and we are one, and that being operates us. And I believe divine is most likely giving that being some sort of instructions, and they're doing divine's will in that way. Something like that is happening. And in order to open up certain things, divine knows our brain. Divine knows how every part of it. We that's one of the most misunderstood, or let's just say least understood things in science, in medical science, is the human mind, is the human brain. Even psychology does a better job, at least, of finding how things play out. Like, let's look at the symptoms and then we put it together and we're like, that's called this. Okay, does that help? But there's so much that we cannot even begin to understand, but divine knows it all. Divine knows everything. And so being able to have you do certain things could be as simple as having your brain see certain things, signs, syncs. You understand? That's for the divine masculine, the more simplified version. For us, we know signs and syncs are so much bigger, but for them, it's it's like, wait a minute, I get that. Oh, wait, I wonder if this means this. Huh, you know what? I just thought a few days ago or a few weeks ago about the exact same thing. I wonder if it's connected. They like puzzles more than they want to feel their way through. And that's how divine delivers to divine masculines, especially those that are stubborn or who have that opposing force. So we have to process this as individuals, okay? The sun has to set on something in order for them to do what divine wants them to do. But it's also directly related to something really, really important that either you guys had maybe differences on, or where they might even have claimed, like, oh, we just don't line up that way. And that will help you understand what maybe not the first, but what a major breadcrumb, because this is like a huge energy, right, that we're talking about, and talking about something, this wand is going to go with them forever. And when he breaks it in half and it grows to full length, because it's a magical wand, and look, look who has a wand in this one. The Hierophant usually doesn't. I didn't even look over there. That's wild. Okay. um I remember my vision of this, how the King of Wands kingdom was formed, is that he breaks his wand in half to give to his queen, not knowing he's breaking his most prized possession. He doesn't know that it's going to grow to full size. And so to see that this is where it comes from, in this case especially, This is really important energy, and it's life changing. It's not small. It's like it will change the trajectory of someone's life. It's like getting sober type stuff, right? Like everybody who knows anybody who's gotten sober or who has done that for themselves on whatever it might be, or who's even just beat some sort of it, like addiction, like gambling or, stuff like that. They know that like that thing takes over your life. So if your person has been existing in a way where they can't receive messages, that's what the Page of Cups is. They can't receive signs and things. Then how are they going to know until they're unhealthy on their own, until they can't even make their own choices and it starts to frustrate them? How are they going to realize, I feel like I have no compass. Everybody around me seems to be happy, but I can't handle this. I wonder what's going on. Okay. So by the time your person realizes it's time to like really, really change, I think that their emotions will have somewhat healed a bit because we can tell that they're at least putting in part of this healing. But I have a feeling that there may be some healing that is in your hands after. And that says the swords may be with you a little bit longer than expected when you arrive. Maybe instead of getting rid of them right away, breaking them down into, pieces of silver or whatever these are made of, and that now you've got some money, or you sell them to a blacksmith or something, whatever. Instead of doing that, maybe you have to hold on to them. Maybe no one wants to buy them right away, but because divine is sending a perfect buyer that wants to give you a lot because they value this, right? That's the kind of spiritual perspective that we have to have, that when we're living in this world that is so chaotic, and then it's got the ups and downs where it's kind of okay for a while, and maybe we start to think, oh, all right, this is okay, and then it drops out from underneath us. That's going to get worse for the rest of our lives. So we have to make a choice. They have to make a choice. What are we going to do as a divine couple to where we're sustained in the air, where we can kind of spiritually fly? What are we going to do to not let every single one of those things break us? Because if it breaks us, it might break us up. So, okay, now I want to just get a couple things for this. Oh, look at that. Another no. Now we have masculine, no, and this is the passion. Okay. Wow. Our divine masculines do not have passion. That's why they were willing to go down into the depths. They were lacking the zeal for life that was supposed to sustain them. So we need to keep in mind that sometimes these divine masculines, they talk such a big game that we don't want to believe people when they tell us like, hey, they're not okay. And the part of us is like, well, I know they're not okay, and I also know why they're not okay, so whatever. It's like, hold on though, but remember, just because you know, and maybe you've even told them, does not mean that it ever registered. Have you ever had something really not register to you? Like, I think a good example that's really simple is maybe you thought you knew a line to a song, but then it turned out to be something else, and you were like, oh my goodness, that actually makes so much more sense. And your whole life you were singing and just really genuinely didn't know. Well, imagine that on bigger scales about other things where you think you understand something. And it just seems like sometimes we're taught to misunderstand our person. And that's really going to stop us from keeping the flow that's going to lead to them being able to go where they're meant to be, to find their true depth and what they need to know and what they should be doing. Oh, Mr. Lightwork is home. Is that right? Okay, good boy. That close. He's so silly. He might get a baby though. All right, now let's go ahead and pick some of this up, guys. Oh, I didn't close the door all the way. Sorry, I gotta get up. There we go. Now, let's take a little bit of time to understand what divine is up to here. So you sent this this emotional state of being that they really walked themselves right into. They dove into it. All right. Whoa. Okay. Interesting. So divine wants them to be able to have a feeling of worthiness. For some reason, this particular group, batch, whatever, of divine masculines deals with a lot of oh my gosh, all the words just came like the imposter syndrome and the feeling incompetent and a bunch of stuff it's like they just have a lot of, oh, and wow, 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 wow. Don't give up, protect yourself, have courage, believe in yourself. This is trying to show divine masculine the proper way to build up a barrier and a wall. And I often talk about how sometimes when someone builds up that 9 of Wands wall, that fencing around the property, and they're standing in front of it with the last little post, they're like, wait a minute, I hit my head. Now I can't remember. Am I supposed to be on this side of the fence or this side of the fence before I close it up? Sometimes divine masculines will lose out on opportunities to be with the love of their life because for them, they're on the wrong side of the fence and they don't even realize it. Whether that's because they're being manipulated or something, I don't know, but it's really hard for them. So, what do we need to understand? Hmm. All right, so we have 911, we have 11. We also have make time for those around you, take a sensible approach, deal with challenges in a kind and understanding manner. And earlier, before we shuffled, under the Ace of Cups was the Nine of Pentacles, which I always say is the queen in her backyard. So now we have a divine masculine. So we have our 9, and we have a 9. We have our divine masculine kind of in this overprotective, like self-preserving energy. We have a divine feminine, again, once again, in a creative, loving energy. And probably sending every good thing you've got to this person a lot of the time, right? There is a deep love that we have for our person, and we want that for them. So, no problem. I'm sending you vibes. I'm sending you love, dreams, all kinds of things are happening. Now they're receiving that. And I don't think that they're mistaking it. I think that they're pretty aware here because divine is changing the perspective about the fence and helping them realize before you close this thing up again, because you keep moving the barriers, making it harder, all that stuff. Have you considered? Have you considered this person? Have you considered this path? Have you considered this truth? That the only person who ever really understood you was the one who told you to do the things that deep down you wanted anyways. That's how you knew they understood you when you kind of don't even understand yourself. You don't understand how you're living, at least. Divine is sending an urgency to them. Divine, Divine is saying, you better be confident. And I think what this says is if life truly is only going to get harder and harder, but we get more and more powerful, and life also is going to get easier. Like I heard somebody say that, we don't have to go out and hunt for food or like gather food, at least most of us, right? Most of us just go to a store or even press a button and then we grab the bag from the door. So if that's how we are existing, I think that we have to understand if we see it so bad and everything is getting bad, then our power cannot rise. Our power goes down with it. Okay. And if we do that, our divine masculine is definitely not going to rise. I'm just letting you know if you're the first awakened, whoever your person is will not come to any great height, if your energy is also down in the dumps. Even if they dragged you down there or the pain of loss or missing them has brought you there, you have to rise up and you have to do that by riding the wave of your own power. So we have a divine masculine who's now being brought to the same thing. This to me signals that the season that we were anticipating, especially, remember, we do this forecast every year. Like, oh, I just realized I need to do a forecast soon, guys. We do this forecast every year. We can kind of tell it's been accurate for the last 7 years. No, I haven't done maybe 6 years. I believe that the holidays even goes against negative energy. I know it sounds weird, but it is something about a nostalgic, like family time, positivity from their youth, a time where they felt safe, where many divine masculines feel vulnerable enough to connect And that is what leads to unions during this time in January and stuff like that. All right. So just keep this in mind, be prepared, but also know if your divine masculine's in this energy, notice again, we're getting a wand. So divine is letting us know. And again, if you've been in my ministry, what do I tell you about this wand? That is the divine feminine. Their true spark is us. And technically, we might say that he has her. You know what I mean? He got her, and now he's taking her with him. That's what he's using this boat to do, to take her along. There's something important about all this wand information, and especially if you need to conquer death, if you need to transform, if you need to die to yourself, as some spiritual practices would say, you cannot be afraid. You have to have courage. All right. So we have a divine masculine who's being called to push, to do more, to be more, but to believe that they're worthy. What else is divine doing right now that we don't understand? Okay, 5 of Cups. This person has a bit of an issue. The emotions, the depths, I don't think that the Ace of Cups is the only cup they saw down there. Okay. I think they may have also seen some other stuff. And all it does is remind them how hard their journey has been. They are severely lacking the positive energy that is needed in order to sustain oneself in this day and age. And I mean that globally. Unless you are very, very rich and untouchable, like you live in another society type thing, it doesn't matter who you are. If you are interacting with human beings, if you are online, anything, your life is very, very similar in terms of the overwhelm that we're all served. Divine masculine is overwhelmed by life. They're overwhelmed by their own self. Now they're overwhelmed by their emotions. And it kind of makes sense if you're being told, hey, buck up, you're worthy. Why do you see yourself that way? Do you really think that I would do that and make you that way? And all, there's all this stuff that they kind of know, but they haven't heard it in a long time. They haven't believed it in a long time. And as they reflect on their journey and they think of what remains, the beauty is this is a twin flame and training card. So once again, we're getting our cups, we're getting our water, right? Okay, we've got wands and water so far. Two of the most passionate of the 4 suits. As they're processing, it leads back to you because that's what the 2 things that stand, that's what our phrase is for the twin flame in training. It's the 2 shall stand. It's when the person puts you on the back burner or forgets to turn around after a tragedy and see the dawn of a new day. It's when a person decides to lean into how hard life has been on them to prove to others, fine. Oh, you think I'm so bad? I'll be bad then, right? Oh, fine. You don't want to support me? I'll show you how bad things can get for me then. Just because that kind of approach sometimes, it might seem silly. It might seem like they wouldn't do that, right? But it's like some of you have talked to your person and you're like, no, that's them. That's exactly how they behave. As they process this, it's their job to realize that they cannot go back and celebrate. They can't reverse the things that were not celebrated, but they can move forward. They just have to turn around and take off the cloak. So what this tells me is divine knows your person is going to have a tendency to not want to let this go. They don't know the wand is magic and they definitely don't know the flag is magic. So they don't think right away in some cases, oh, you know what I'm going to do? Let me get rid of this because this is death. This is what made this bad, right? This is what made it evil. No, they're going to go, oh, this makes a nice cloak. And so they put the cloak on. And basically until this point, when it's time to really go and I think something changes, they probably are going to have a tendency in cases of like those deep despair DMs of throwing that thing on and not taking it off until the last minute. So we need to be aware of how our person's nature is and know that divine can still work with it. And that there is a lot of rapid turnaround. Just like if you think about how boys grew fast over the summer, divine masculine spiritually grow very, very quickly. Like they'll grow a foot in 2 years. And you're like, oh my gosh, you're so tall. So, all right, what else do we need to, y'all? She's back. She was underneath the Ace of Cups. I called her out when we saw the Queen. She's back again. Why is this so important? Because divine masculine does not understand that even if you're bad off without them, like if you miss them and you're still doing more than they could ever understand. And if they know that you're good without them, they don't understand that you're so kind and loving and pure in heart, especially where they're concerned. Divine feminines, we really, even if we make mistakes and we're human and da, 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 we really, really love deeply. We want to help, right? That's just what our true nature is. Divine masculines cannot understand that have more to pour for them. Some of them have that problem, and others have an issue with thinking that we just don't need them. There's all these weird ways that they process the fact that we could go off and tend to our garden and live a beautiful life without them. It's sad because a lot of it is a bit of a protective instinct from them, but there's still this part of them that they feel so unworthy. And I think that that unworthiness, if you're reminiscing about something because you've realized how wrong you've been, there's a lot of heaviness that comes with that. What do we need to understand? Oh my gosh, what the heck? How we shuffle in this and this came out and then this came back up to the top. Like this is the deck. Ain't that wild? Okay. All right. What's back here? Is this going to be wow. Now we have another 9. Here's what we must understand. As the divine masculine goes down into the depths, as they process this, what happens is expecting the worst, self-fulfilling prophecy, sleepless nights. They go into this is my nightmare. Why? Not because of I don't think there has to even be anything bad going on. Think about this. If if you've ever seen like a movie where maybe there's a ghost or something, and whenever the ghost comes around, people get really angry or people get really sad or people get, you know what I'm saying? Like just the ghosts is like their energy is so strong from all that energy of what's that called? Unfinished business, I mean, that they just affect everyone around them. I feel like that's what this flag does. So if they're wearing a cloak, that's where the 9 of swords, even in this deck is dark, okay? But in many decks, the 9 of swords, in the Rider Waite, it's got that black background with the swords. So we're starting to understand where these came from. They have to basically transform this 9 into a 3. They're doing division. Now, division, think about addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. You learn mathematics in a certain way because it is deemed the easiest to understand, the most logical for children, I think, at least in America. That's why I say I think, okay? But first, you learn abundance, okay? Then you learn the power of not less, but simple and precise, okay? That's what subtraction helps you do. Now, multiplication is abundance upon abundance, meaning to share, right? Not just for me, but I'm so abundant, I can not even just give to others. I can probably teach and show others how to be abundant. That's how deep that goes. That's that Queen of Pentacles energy we kept seeing. Okay. That's that 9. We're talking about 9 of swords for division, but the 9 of pentacles was that multiplication. Now we have the 9 of swords. We have to not allow the nightmare to become our reality. That's why it's on the wall behind him in the Rider Waite. It's on the wall behind him because I think it's trying to tell us like this is always on their mind, and at night they can't even escape it. So we have someone we can't keep allowing them to go into fear. And this is a major breaking point, but also an opportunity for breakthrough. And if they can figure out, how do I take pain that has become so massive that there's nowhere to put it? It's almost like humans deciding we're going to go take the Great Pacific Garbage Patch and we're going to send it to outer space because we don't know what else to do with it. How? That's a whole process that they would have to figure out. It's a lot of work to do that. So it's like the divine masculine has to figure out, how do I get this thing that I really don't know what to do with it? I don't know how to deal with it. How do I at least make it less for me to deal with? They have to figure that out, and they don't have a lot of the spiritual understanding we have most of the time. Not always, but most of the time. So it's very important to understand where they're coming from. What this what this emotion energy does to them is it puts them in instant trigger fear. This is my nightmare. I can't deal with it. Oh my gosh. And then they run and they go right back into the same cycle. I'm seeing Seven of Swords for that, which is that's the other Twin Flame in training card. The Seven of Swords, he's walking this way, like, but he's looking over his shoulder at the two swords that he keeps walking past over and over and over again. He can't really take his eyes off him. And he starts to forget why he's even where he is. That type. Okay. All right. What else? What is Divine trying to show us here? Okay, hold on. I need to shuffle a little bit better, but I'm gonna keep it out. All right. I think we're gonna use it as a clarifier. All right, interesting. Now we have Ace of Swords. I think the Ace wants to come out for a reason, you guys. I think it's important. Now we have, I think, a little story. Divine wants to help us understand something. So Divine is showing us to focus here on the swords and the water instead of the wand and the water for a moment. If the wand propels forward and it's magical, it could have even magical properties in taking them somewhere else. But the swords are important. And I said that they need to maybe remain a little bit longer. Perhaps as he breaks down the 9 swords into the 3, maybe he realizes how to use this energy. So that could even be telling us Divine is teaching him through this process how to use this energy, aka the cups or the emotional energy. Divine may be offering Divine Masculine. Wow, I just said training and I was about to say a training course. Okay, we're sorry, I'm paying attention, I promise. Okay, so here's the training course. It's about the 9 of Swords, so it is letting us know it is about their reaction, but it could also be understanding the nightmare, like maybe some sort of trauma awareness type thing. Okay, hold on. Okay, the 9 of Wands. This is the 2 icky 9s in the deck. For them to come out together, and again, as kind of a synchronicity, with the ace, I mean, 9911. Okay. It just feels like Divine Masculine has been dealing with this energy for a really long time. And this is kind of a part of their cycle. So the training is going against the exact behaviors. Divine is just as tired as we are, but guess who else is tired? The Divine Masculine's tired. Sometimes we take on this idea of they're so foolish, they're so stupid, or whatever. And you know what? Sometimes they can be dumb, but so can we. Like, we make mistakes. But the weird thing is, there's this part of them that deeply does not understand that maybe they might even be telling us one thing and being defensive about this over here, but what they're really dealing with is this. They cannot escape this running in circles that they do. They cannot escape this feeling like they're not safe. Everybody around him is asleep, but he's awake. He can't sleep because he can feel this energy behind him. The irony is, oh my gosh, one day I realized something. Was there a chance that when I was a child, and help me if maybe any of you either identify with this or have the same question or like, wait, yes, I know the answer, whatever it is. When you were a child, did you ever have like a fear that there was a presence? But more so that because there was always a presence, that was really why you were afraid. Maybe it wasn't necessarily that the presence was there. Maybe it just spooked you for a second. You're like, oh my gosh, what's that? But the scary part was like it never revealed itself or something. And then as an adult, you realize like, oh my gosh, I think I might just have been followed by guardian angels all the time. And every so often I just saw them in the corner of my eye, or my ancestors or whatever. Like maybe you realize later it was like a positive thing, but you for some reason saw it negatively. I think the Divine Masculine goes through these experiences of not being able to trust anything or anyone. I think that we have to see them in a different light so that we can actually understand what's happening. And that way, we don't trigger the same things in them. And if they do run off and try to do this thing, maybe we can pause and help them and say, hey, wait, what side of the fence are you on right now? What just happened that this is right? Like maybe there are things that we say instead of engaging with them when they get into this, I didn't do it. I don't know what you're talking about. Like they just kind of go into, I don't know. It feels like almost like teenage them getting in trouble. They go into an energy that's just not, it's not them. I think that Divine is working on that. We need to see what comes next. The Five of Pentacles. This says you are afraid. Fear surrounding money, the wisdom to accept help from others, hello, and uncertain self-employment. The divine masculine is really afraid of putting themselves out there and making a mistake, putting themselves out there and finding that they are not worth much, and then people confirming it for them over and over and over until they give up, because there are moments in their life that have felt that way. Maybe not actually been that, but felt that way. So we have somebody who they want to change, but they can't. It's very, very difficult for them. They want to transform, but they find themselves almost being triggered into a behavior that it feels like it's not out of body, but it feels almost just so natural. It is a lot. It is a lot, guys. What is divine solution? Get out of here. So now we have another cup. And what we have is, instead of all this heavy energy and all this fear, we've got the wisdom to accept help from others, have courage. And I think that them finding their balance and really admitting who they are and who they're supposed to be and how they've been feeling, because for the first time they've had to process how they were feeling, is what really sets the stage for the next phase for them. It's what makes them realize so much more. They're going from page to knight to king. That's the plan. And right now, they might even not even have reached this energy yet. It really just depends on where your person needs to be. It's not about making you wait or delaying. What you don't want is some undercooked masculine. All right. You want them just right. I'm serious. All right. Let's move this out of the way for a second and check the deck here. And again, we're in this energy. Now we have Ace of Swords inside of this Queen of Swords energy. All right. There's the little Pegasus and unicorn thing. There it is here. So she's holding the Ace of Swords in her hand, in her crystal ball. We've got queen energy. We have this really powerful approach that divine is trying to show the divine masculine. Make the right decisions, and the decisions are going to come because you believe in yourself. It's making me think about this, okay? Because now we have a Nine of Swords and Nine of Wands, and we over here we had 9911, but this is actually aligning. Here's your problems, and here's the truth. Maybe there's a mother wound or a girlfriend wound, or maybe a girl teased them in school. Who knows, right? But whatever it is, there's something with this feminine energy that they're lacking, and because they're out of balance, which is what this Knight of Cups energy would help them do, it really is causing a delay in them in everything for a very long time, for their whole life. So that, I think, is why divine is taking them through their emotions, because that is probably a part of the blockage before they can even really get to opening it up. First they got to clear the debris, and then they can get to the issues. Like, they're not even there. So what do we, hold on, one more thing. Get out of town. Now on the bottom, we have the Queen of Pentacles. So three queens. And the Queen of Pentacles showing back up says, hey, don't forget about me. You already saw me. And you saw me in my backyard. You saw me chilling. You saw me being cool. I think that the Queen is letting us know, us sending this energy may be more valid at this time than we are even giving ourselves credit for. Maybe we just love them so much and we think of them, and but it's like, I think that they may actually need the energy, guys. I think that they may need, with the emptying out that's happening, the disappointment and the fight that they have against this oppressive darkness from their past that just wants them to think of all their failures instead. It may be very, very important for them to be receiving as much energy as possible right now. And if you have more to give, if you've been feeling more lively, if you've been pursuing things, a lot of divine feminines have been reporting to me that this is happening. And it's really wild, because nobody knows, none of us are connected. And yet now all of us seem to be returning to ourselves. And that's been really important. It's been ramping up all year. In the last few months, as they went through a dip, we've been going up. You see what I'm saying? Did you notice that? That the last few months that we've been finding ourselves getting stronger were the last few months of the divine masculines were getting weaker. Divine has everything in the ebb and flow it needs to be in. And we must understand that even the process is the same in that way. The divine masculine must learn how to master all of these things before divine can actually give them the compassionate heart that comes with all this, because these are the blockages for them. Their connection to feminine energy has been tainted by something. All right, now I want one more card for this so we can close this aspect out. What does divine really want us to understand about this person? What has been put on their mind about us? Because it clearly is pointing them in our direction. What do we need? Oh, hold on. What do we need to know? Wow. If you're just getting here, the Six of Swords energy is kind of the last stage. And by that point, we're with them. And now divine is putting on their mind, hello, you need to go. Things are looking up. The end of a difficult situation, taking a trip, looking up. Divine masculine is looking up. Divine masculine is starting to understand the power and saying, maybe if I just try to get a little bit, oh, wow, I'm flying. Sometimes it's all it takes is just put yourself in that place, and suddenly you realize your spirit has been waiting for you to choose to lift off. All right. Final message on this for divine masculine is divine is teaching them how to be a partner. There's that something for some reason that this sequence can very clearly do. And what I will say is maybe this is the only reason. Oh, forgot you guys were down there. Okay. Maybe this is the only reason that they're not a good partner now, is because they're so afraid and they have so many weird boundaries up that they don't even understand or remember why they put them there. And there's so many things that are clouding their judgment and overwhelming them and making them disappointed and all that stuff. How could they be a good partner? Now, the truth is, a lot of our DMs are actually okay partners when they're not triggered. And so I actually think this makes a lot of sense. Final message from divine here. Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Okay, so justice and the hermit. And justice, we have 8. I think that this is pointing us. I already feel like this is us for some reason, but I feel like it's actually pointing us to that star energy. And it's reminding us that there is something happening, just like we don't realize that we have been holding all of this together alongside, like almost with divine. I don't think we realize that there could be things up in the heavenlies, up in the, in the other dimension, wherever we're from, wherever we are, wherever we exist as this whole being. There could be something that changes everything that happens down here. We don't really know how it works. We don't know how our soul self that exists at all times outside of this time space, we don't really know what it can do, where it can go, because there's a lot of things that happen in spirituality and even in, like, the Christian faith and other faiths that say that you can be taken places in dreams. And so I'm just saying, we need to realize there is a long-term goal attached to everything that we're experiencing during separation. Even though the separation is the hardest part, because it's like there's this knowing that we're not supposed to be separated, we're supposed to be together. We're supposed to be gathering what we need so that when we come together, we have all the ingredients necessary. And to me, that says if individually we're doing these things so that we can be ready, that I think maybe in the heavenlies, there are these other bigger reasons for the things that we're doing as well. There's just something more to it. And I think that divine masculine is being healed from the parts of them that will not be able to stand true to these positive long-term things, to stand for justice and spiritual wisdom and divinity and teaching and learning and growing. That's a lot for them where they are right now. But once they've made the decision and once the healing is done, everything changes. All right. Let's pull a few clarifiers here and then we'll wrap up. Okay, guys? So the last thing we need to know is, let's look at how their physical is receiving this. Okay. So in the physical, what do we need to understand? All right. We've got 3 cards here for this. So we have the lunar eclipse. we have divine time, and then we have pentacles. And so I think what this is trying to tell us is that the divine masculine needs to be paying attention to the spiritual signs and riding the wave of energy more. And that might be something that's a little bit challenging for them to understand. So divine has found other ways to help them grasp that in their own life. We're seeing it a certain way, but divine is presenting it in a completely opposite way than we would think. Once divine masculine chooses to make this transformation, I don't think it's just for a random reason. There have been some things transpiring over the last several years, right? But right now, we're in another one of those moments. We're in a moment where it's almost as if there's like a portal open somewhere or something, and it's like letting in a bunch of juju or good energy or something's happening. And sometimes it feels like the opposite. Sometimes it feels like there's a portal to hell open somewhere. Yeah. But right now is not one of those moments. There's actually energetically a buzz, and it's very positive. It's very loving. It's warm and inviting. And it's cold. It's like 30 degrees outside in Florida today. Yeah, in Florida. So let me tell you something. When I'm telling you I'm grateful for this, I've needed this, and I hope that you sense it and I hope you feel it, because it's not just for us. Divine masculine is being shown this, but unfortunately, divine is actually using this high moment in the energy for them so that it could complement the negative low they're being taken through and kind of having to climb their way out of, and kind of balance the energy out so it's not so bad. And once they come out the other side, divine is most likely going to have this very specific thing that all of us have been wanting, waiting for, trying to do, whatever it is, that once they're ready, suddenly opens up. If you don't understand that that's what happened, most people will tell you, like famous people, celebrities, successful people will tell you they just kept trying and trying and trying, and it felt like nothing worked. Many of them will tell you they were going to quit soon. And maybe it wasn't even to be a quitter, but like it just wasn't feasible anymore, whatever. And then it happens. That isn't just a thing about like being famous and lucky. That's about following the divine order of things. Of course, everything gets low as you make your way to the top of the monastery, but that's the destination. That's where you were wanting to get to. And as divine masculine is climbing this giant mountain and all these stairs to get up there, I think there's something really special waiting on the other side that's going to replenish them. And for them, it seems to be, remember from the very beginning, we started off in this deck with the Ace of Pentacles and the Ace of Cups in the other deck. I think that all these aces that we've seen now are trying to tell us something. There are certain things at play, and divine is well aware. And perhaps there were some things that were set in motion a long time ago to lead them here. All right. Now, what do we need to know about this? We have solstices as our clarifier back here, and this is winter solstice coming. Ha. Solstice in reading, solstice energy signals a moment to honor transformation, either emerging from darkness into light or pausing at the peak of illumination to bow to equinoctial humility. Okay, so is this the star again? Y'all don't notice that all across these decks, sinking keeps happening. This is pretty wild. So we have the star, and I think what this is saying is we need to understand the times and seasons. They don't understand that as well, but we do need to understand it, because if we can kind of help, I think, work alongside divine, which we've been doing unknowingly sometimes, right? But we could do it knowingly. We could intentionally be sending out our love and a good flow. And I think that it could be important to do so as we're coming into the, let's just call it around the middle of December and so on. Okay. It could be earlier or later for some people, because I really still feel very strongly. I see it all the time, every year, that the holidays just bring people together. But I think that specifically, even if you're together, you're not together, it doesn't matter. You should be sending them good energy towards the end of the year and for the rest of the year. Like, I think the whole time, if you've got it. Now, I do want you to consider how you can be the star. How can you pour into the long-term plans. And one thing that I have noticed is that the star is often depicted in a way that could be a little bit confusing if you're not really paying attention. The star is creating a river. And in this deck or in this reading, they travel on a river to get where they need to go to. Perhaps this river used to not be there behind this death guy, behind this guy in the card, right? But perhaps divine feminine just kept pouring and pouring and pouring and pouring and making this river. And it just so happened that when it was time, it was there and it had connected a piece of land that there was no other way across. Maybe it was a deep valley. Oh, if you've been watching the readings lately, that just hit you. All right. What do we need to understand about what divine is doing? What are we missing about how divine masculine is receiving this energy? Oh, the big dragon and the hierophant comes right back up. Okay. That before we shuffled here, this was our primary energy. The divine masculine feels an obligation to something that they don't really feel an obligation to. Imagine you're driving, you're a knight, you're riding your horse, and you go past a church and they call out to you, "Hey, please come back." And you're like, "What?" I'm like, "Can you go kill a dragon for us?" What? What? I don't even live here. But wait, I'm a knight. I guess I got to do it. That's the kind of obligation this divine masculine feels for some reason. And it says that they don't really think they're the one for the job. That I'm not worthy thing is bigger than we think. But I also think there's a part of them that deep down there is a feeling of honoring the cause in them. And we see that in them. And sometimes it can be very frustrating. Like, well, then why won't you do that for us? But I think there's more to it than that. All right. What are we missing? Whoa, time and the crow. This is another transformation energy. Okay. It's time to change. The crow gonna call people. What we're missing about this is that there may be something that causes them to have to go slay the dragon regardless. And I think that the dragon may be exactly what we were talking about before with this, them kind of taking death down, right? Okay. What do we need to understand? All right. This divine masculine has the power right now. They just don't know it. That's what we need to understand about the stick, the staff that keeps showing up everywhere. Remember, we say, like, hey, they don't realize what it is about this flag. They just think the devil, or the not the devil, but the death, the reaper is carrying this. They don't realize that it's like actually really powerful. So there's this weird sense of fear in the divine masculine about something. Oh, wow. Look at that. Emperor and the ring. They feel that they're not enough. That they're just imagine being a magician in the kingdom, but you don't know you're a magician yet. You're a wizard, Harry. Like they don't know that yet. So they look and they think, "Oh, man, I'm powerless. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I am." And meanwhile, there's that amazing king over there who's looking for a wife. So until he finds his wife, I guess I'm just gonna have to wait to not be married because I'm nothing. I'm nobody. You could take the king down and turn him into like a little piggy or something. Like, but it's like you don't even know that he shouldn't do that. But in some time, I just feel like the magicians were the most powerful in many cultures across history. If you could do something magical or at least appear to be doing something magical, you were it. So there is something happening here that says they cannot see their power because they cannot see a lot of things. They're not just closing their eyes to you, I think is what divine wants you to know. They're not just closing their eyes to you like, oh, hey, you suck. I don't like you. Or no, they're like, they're like this. This is just how they are right now. And unfortunately, that means that there's actually a lot more that you probably don't know about them that they are doing this about, like that's causing this problem. What are we missing here? Okay. Remember that the spring comes after the winter. Don't forget that the sun will shine again, that the warmth will come again. And what I think that says is the divine masculine has to see that these moments where they get triggered and they run and they're fearful when it comes to like your love, when it comes to innocent, pure sweetness, that that thing that triggers them to run into the wrong things, it's not going to help them. It's not going to serve them. In fact, if they hold on to it, even when the spring shines, and the sun comes and the springs begin to fill, and because the water's melting and everything's beautiful, and nope, they're still going to hold on to it. And I think that is a part, that's something that I've been working on for a while now, is helping people understand that the divine masculines are like they have the ice box where their heart used to be type vibe sometimes. Like there's something about them that they just have turned cold. And if you think about something that sits in the freezer, it just starts to grow ice on it. And sometimes it could get blocked in completely. And that, I think, is what has happened to a lot of them. It's not about you by the time you even meet them. It's already happened. You just bring out the softer side of them. And a lot of us don't know that's what's going on. All right, final message about these aces and these new beginnings, because we pretty much saw all the aces, all the queens. This reading was very, very interesting. There was a lot of energies that flowed together, like we saw the cups and the water and the wands. We saw all this stuff. Okay, so what do we need to know about the divine masculine's understanding of accepting the challenge, of believing that the new beginning is possible once they realize that they can actually accomplish something, that there's a process for it. Like, oh, that's called division. Oh, really? Wow, I never knew that. What do we need to know about that? One card, please. There we go. Sheesh. Again, we're getting this energy of pay attention to the signs, pay attention to the moon, because the spotlight is trying to shine and show you something. There was, oh, I can't remember now. Oh, the 2 nines over here. I was thinking about the moon earlier. There is something about these that was like, this is causing a lot of illusions and confusion with the divine masculine. And now for the moon to come up and say, hey, when they start to understand what they're capable of and what they can remove and get rid of in life and all that, and how it could change everything. And also, I think, how to minimize an energy without actually just sweeping it under the rug, which doesn't minimize anything. They then can get their life back, their time back, and all the things that they desire, the things that they deeply want. This is the connection. If they want the pentacles, this is where they're going to find the treasure. They have to be willing to go through this process and to receive the truth that the path that they were always meant to be on is the one path that they've avoided, because there's something in them that cannot see it for what it is. And again, I think it's connected to some aspect of divine feminine, an illusion likely about divine feminines. What do we need to know about this? Wow, that is where the utter darkness is coming from. This is a black hole, okay? A black hole, you guys. Instead of the moon shining a spotlight and all this, beautiful stuff, we have a divine masculine who goes into a black hole. They go into the oblivion. They go into the sunken place, whatever you want to call it. That's what this 9 of swords, that's this darkness that comes in. That's why they keep putting up so many boundaries, because they don't know what's making them go into those kind of states, you guys. They just freak out and they go put a bunch of stuff, fences around, and like, okay, maybe that'll stop it. It's like, nope. And them being called to slay a dragon that they don't even feel like is their own, on top of the fact that they don't know that the castle has the gold. It's kind of disappointing for us, because we're like, that's where we want you to be more open and more willing, because all your opportunities are really just like one good choice away. But if you remember from the very beginning, these divine masculines have really has a lot of trouble making their own choices, or at least making good choices. The choices that they've made have been guided by people who overpowered or overshadow like the voice of divine even in their life. It goes deep, guys. All right, and final message about this reading. Oh, wrong deck. Here we go. Final message about this reading overall. What do we need to know? And we'll read the card. What do we need to know today about what's going on in our person's life, in our person's mind? What do we need to know about us? About this partnership? What do they want to know? What do they want to see? What do they want to experience? What are we missing? Let's see. Let's start here first. So, I think that divine masculine tends to only see the negative signs. And I think that as they start to see the right things, it's going to allow them to kind of release the negative and open their mind to the green flags. All right. Why is that so important? Because it's the only way that they're going to be able to truly fall head over heels madly in love without any interference. Divine is working on this need to go into almost like the dark spotlight instead of going into the light spotlight where it'll lead you where you're supposed to go. It's like almost like shining a bat signal or a beacon. Oh, it's making me think about the Queen of Cups. How wild is that? Because that's what we've been missing. They ignore beacons, beacons of hope, beacons of light. Beacons are good, but they avoid them. And instead they go deep diving into negativity and misery and all this different stuff sometimes. It's like, why are you doing that? You know, divine masculine, when they go that route, the way that they see you goes with it. And you're not allowed to let them bring you into their imposter syndrome too, because that happens to most of us at some point on the journey, unfortunately. And a lot of us realize at some point later that it was on them. They did that to me. Now I need to be strong in myself. I get that, but they did that to me. And it happens to almost every divine feminine I've spoken to. We just, the main reason is like, we question, am I the reason we're not in, we're not in reunion? That's usually where that starts. It's a little brief phase. So I think that they're remembering now the light, like, how to explain this? The energy between you, there was something that lifted them. And I think that that was a part of the breadcrumb that divine offered them. You need to know what this feels like so that when you experience moments that I'm going to use to kind of bring you along, that you'll, oh, I know that. Oh, I know that. Oh, I know that. Oh, and you're going exactly where I want you to go. You show them an energy that no one else could. And that may be also how divine uses one breadcrumb for two things. So as you remember all these different things, you're also going to realize, wait a minute, there you are again and again and again and again. Okay, and wow, the Chariot. And in this deck, what we see is the urgency. Now, in this reading, I mentioned the Chariot energy. And my point is that we're one. But what's interesting is this has three horses. And it makes me remember divine is a part of this. We have our mission, they have their mission, and then we have our mission together, and that mission is on behalf of divine, which means that we can't forget what I mentioned earlier may be very true, that divine uses us to work and do certain things. And that may be where sometimes we have downloads and we're like, what did I just say? Or we tell somebody something and we're like, whoa, that was really powerful, but I don't even remember it, like, because it's just like it wasn't us. And I think that there's something important for divine masculine when it comes to you, that they feel that energy, that connection, like that it's not the buzz I'm talking about. It's more of a rumbling buzzing. What would you call that? It's like electric. Okay. And I think that when you combine this energy, we're talking about exactly what divine masculines want to experience all the time. Think like um, fast cars and go-go girls. I'm trying to think of what are those called? Cabaret girls. Or whoever has the I don't know why I'm thinking about a boa, right? They want the softness in one way, they want the rough and tough in another way. And it's interesting that for them, I don't know if they've ever associated that passion that they do have with divine. So everything that divine offered to them, remember earlier we saw they have no passion in their life, so they go the wrong way. Well, now we're kind of understanding they didn't feel that divine connection, and it could be because they needed to heal their issues with feminine energy or awaken their internal feminine, whatever was going on. But it could also be that it just never existed until you came along, until you came into their life to activate something, and they did the same activation in you. What else do we need to know? I think that I just heard you are my fire, which I guess it's fire, so that's not that crazy. But I really think that for divine masculines, it gets clearer and clearer what's there, because as they start to think about it, the fires are stoked. We think that they have to go in and like, I'm going into my body to stoke the fire now. It's like, no, 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 no. That's it can go down to a little ember sometimes in our divine masculines, but it doesn't ever really completely go out, guys. And sometimes for them to just even think about it sets them ablaze, which is why oftentimes in the early part of separation, you were getting hit up for sex if you guys had that kind of relationship. It was like it was on, because they would they would rumble up, and then they're like, I want this, because they did not know the best ways to use their passion. All right. All right. Last thing, and there's our softness again. But this is, I don't know, there's something different about this. I think highlight the need for more compassion. So we called this out earlier with the, and that's kind of the whole point of this beacon. Um, Either towards yourself or others. If you're seeking love or connection, pink may be a sign that it's time to open up deeper emotional bonds. It's the reading summed up, guys. Okay, pretty cool. Like, it's the whole reading summed up. Divine masculine has a life of shallowness right now, and they want a life of depth. They always have, but they've always been shown one path towards that, and they've denied it. And when you came along and you were like, yeah, I'm on that path, they were like, well, I guess it's not going to work out. And you're like, what? Because everything else made sense. But that path, that person they have to become, just doesn't resonate, because they have a misunderstanding about some things. It's very important for us to not misconstrue what we are, right? I have some divine feminines who definitely can scare their DMs off with like this spiritual thing, but they're very spiritual, and those DMs need to kind of get over it, right? But I also have some divine feminines who, they kind of play a role, right? They want their divine masculine to see them in the softness or in a certain way, but because it's not their true softness and their true nature, I don't think it lands, you know? I don't think the DMs get to experience that real. And so it's so important for us to just be us and just show them who we are in those moments. And when they feel that, that beacon, again, they may not go to our beacon, but it's like a moth to a flame, or no, it's like a bee to their hive. That's what it is. It's like, I have to go back. There's work to be done. Wow, that's amazing. So I hope this is a blessing for you. Did we check this? What's this about? Oh, and now we have a king. Divine masculine must come to terms with the truth. They must stop lying to themselves so that they can go forward with confidence. Because if they keep lying to themselves about everything and to everybody else about everything, they start to believe that life is a lie, because their life is a lie. When they start to tell the truth, then they can see the truth, and the truth shall set them free. How? Get get out. It's the Fool. The truth will set them free, and then it's the Fool. Again, you can't make this stuff up. You guys, there is a moment of completion that comes at the end of all of this, and the Fool has the stick. Okay? The Fool is ready to go. And you can, down here, there's even like a little mountain town. All right. He's going to go jump to. So, look, friends, if you're interested, I've got some sessions open on Wednesday. If you need to talk to me about your divine masculine, if you need to experience a moment of zen and clarity, if you need to release some fears, if you need to talk about how the heck you're going to talk to them without getting frustrated because, oh, they think they can just come in and, how dare you show up all free. Like we didn't just go through years of separation, weeks, months, whatever it was. So I'd love to connect with you, but what I want you all to do is to ask yourself, what is it does my person needs to do to transform, to become the best version of who I know them to be? And if that were to happen, how would that change their perspective about like what life should look like for them? Like how would that make them more willing to come down this path? Because if you can kind of understand what they're afraid of, I think there's also a lot of things that you can do to help ease them in. We've been hearing a lot soft landing place, and I can kind of see why now. We don't know how he finds her. And maybe you're at the bottom of the mountain. Maybe you've gone on your journey and you're coming back and you're like, okay, hey, I'm down here. You got to jump. Maybe that's their final, test. And then you guys get to go on your way because you've been building a river. You've been creating and carving out a river for all this time so that wherever he was, wherever you were, you guys could go where you needed to go. I want you to keep that in mind. I want you to really reflect on what that looks like in your physical world, because it sounds good spiritually, but what does it mean in your physical world? Rewind this if you need to kind of like be like, wait, what did you say? Let me visualize this. Let me get clear about it, because I believe that there are moments where we don't understand just how deep our connections are, and we can see their visions. We can understand like what divine is showing them, because it's almost as if we have access to their eyes in a way. But we have to be so in touch with our 5D that that's what makes it possible. Otherwise, it's like it's hard to even understand. Like, what? So, I love you. I want the best for you. I want you to be confident in who you are so that you can show your person. I want you to feel zen, okay, so that you can be that soft landing place. I want you to find your peace if you've been feeling anxious, especially if you have really been pushing yourself lately to try to be better or in some way. And now you're kind of feeling a little, don't give up. You're doing a great job. Keep pushing, okay? Because they need that too. And if you give up on you, you're gonna feel like so bad, like to even say they need to not give up, and we don't need that in our life. We're moving here. We're going. We're doing something important, and I would love to know what the important thing that you're doing is. I'd love to know what you and your DM share together. So again, if you need me, please let me know. I'd be happy to help. I have sessions in like the $20 range. They're shorter sessions, obviously, but I want to give everybody a chance to be able to talk to someone who actually like really understands actually understands the twin flame journey. And I know that sometimes it can be hard to know who to trust, but I've been helping divine feminines all over the world find the right path for them, even if that means they don't watch my channel anymore, or even if that means that they do whatever they want to do, like, and they just had a chance to let it out. I just want to make sure that you're not doing this journey too alone. And if you can't find anybody to connect with in the comments or in any groups or anything, if you're not, because a lot of you are not a part of that kind of stuff, and you have no one to talk about it to, consider just booking a session one day. All right. I think it really helps a lot of people. And even short sessions, we might not be able to get deep into your situation, but I just think that they can really help people out. So I'll have those for the rest of the year, and you'll just have to check the drop down, all right, in the on-call sessions. All right, I'm gonna get out of here. I'll see you guys later. I'm gonna go see Mr. Lightwork because he got home a while ago. See how he's doing. Love you. Bye.